Welcome to today's episode of the On the Up podcast, brought to you from Moneypenny. My name's Dan Marshall and I'm your host, and today I'm joined by Simon McCrum. Simon spent most of his adult life working in law firms and has since become a leading management consultant, author and speaker in the legal sector, and helps law firms to become what he calls the perfect legal business. Simon, thanks so much for taking the time to join us today. We're really excited to speak to you.
My pleasure to be here, Dan.
I've given you a little bit of an intro there, but it'd be nice for our listeners to hear directly from you a bit more about your background and what you've done in your career.
Okay, so my entire career has been in the legal sector. I qualified as a solicitor in 1990. I went down the normal path initially of doing cases and doing bills to clients. Quite quickly, it emerged that I had a different interest and a different set of skills. And I moved into a kind of half business development, half lawyer role. And then I had a very enlightened managing partner who said, you know what, you are pretty exceptional at this BD stuff. Why don't you move into that? And it will help rather than hinder your career progression. So I did move into a non-fee earning role, as they call it, client relationships with existing clients and starting new relationships with new clients. Across a broad range of legal services. The firm I delivered, I believe, and the firm delivered to me, and I ended up as an equity partner. In 2007, I left that firm. That was the mighty Pannoni in Manchester, which was a 50 million turnover firm by then. I left that to become the managing partner of another firm in Oxford called Darby's, which was facing some challenges. And I, as managing partner there, we got the team together, and as an almighty team effort, we turned that around. We became the UK's fastest growing law firm, and I exited, and my firm was acquired by the gigantic Knights PLC in 2016. And since then, I've been helping law firms do all the things I did right and avoid doing all the very many things that I did wrong. And I've put it all together into a model which I call the perfect legal business, which was the title of my first book. That's me. So I've lived in the law, and I now live amongst law firms. It's my daily life.
Excellent. That must be a really, really valuable perspective for law firms as someone that's come, I said to you before we started recording, I'm not an expert on the legal sector by any means, but working at those big brands like Pannoni's and Darby's, like big, well-known law firms, have been incredibly successful. So hopefully lots of great tips for any lawyers and law firms listening.
I can tell you, I wish I'd been visited by me when I was a young managing partner. I wish I knew then what I knew now. And it's one of the real drawbacks in the legal profession, that we're all very good at law and we are utterly committed to changing clients' lives. But there's still a huge bit of jigsaw missing. As I travel around, and it's literally around the world, where the firms I work with, they're all facing real hard challenges, despite the fact they're doing amazing things.
No, definitely. I think it's the consultant model for businesses generally is really interesting right now. And, I work in a marketing role here at Moneypenny, but we've been working with more and more consultants in recent times to help us with different things. And I saw it was a really great post on social media that was saying kind of along the lines of, if there's a consultant that's been there and done what you're trying to do, why would you not work with them to help you do that? And that's stuck with me for a while now, of making sure that we kind of use those educated, experienced perspectives to help us with our challenges right now.
Yeah, Dan, the legal sector is not good at that. The business world out there uses people because they've got more experience on something than you could ever get. In the legal sector, there's a real shyness involving other people. There's 10,000 law firms in the country. At most, I've worked for a few hundred of them. What about the other many thousands? They need, honestly, I urge law firms to listen. One law firm managing partner said to me, Simon, it all sounds great, but I can't bring you in. It would be a real sign of weakness. I mean, that's a terrible thing to say, isn't it? I can't think of a bigger sign of strength. I would imagine your people would celebrate the fact that you were bringing in like an industry expert, rather than making it up and getting things wrong and trying and making mistakes. But we just have a bit of a culture issue within the sector still, I think.
I think that is probably true in a lot of business environments as well. Like, I think you kind of always feel like that sometimes people maybe feel a bit uneasy about having the consultant because of the perception, like you
Yeah,
say, or whether people kind of think that do they need help? But actually, when help is good, help is incredibly valuable, isn't it? So I think
yeah,
you should always make use of what is available
yeah.
to you in that sense.
Yeah, I mean, it's just to finish on that point. It's not a sign of failure. It's a sign of strength. All the firms I work with are all successful, and
Mm.
actually, by listening, you know why. By the fact that they are willing to listen, you know why they're successful, and will be even more so. So I just say to law firms, it's a positive, not a negative.
No, definitely. Yeah, hopefully more and more people start to embrace and come around to that way of thinking. It's only going to benefit their business, their career, their people in the
Exactly.
long
Yeah.
run. So it's a really good thing to kind of consider there, and not necessarily what our topic is today, which is growing
Yep.
profitably and sustainably by changing clients' lives. And I think that's a really interesting topic. And you've already mentioned changing clients' lives, which is really on brand for this. So that's great. I think the place to start with that though is, how do you define what changing clients' lives means in a law firm or in any business setting really?
Well, it's not any business. And I specifically mean in a law firm. Um, Clients don't come to us, with paltry things. It's buying a house, it's making a will, it's getting a power of attorney in place, it's buying a business, it's employing people, it's making people redundant, it's a divorce, it's a catastrophic injury. We're in a certain world. And as I used to say to my team, when we were about 200 people at Derby's, I used to say, we don't sell t-shirts. Clients are coming to us with big things. Now, they've been dealt a hand at whatever it is that's going on in their life. Let's change their life. Let's get them, if they're on the back foot, let's get them the best possible outcome. If it's something positive, like an acquisition of another business or the acquisition a new home, let's get it for them. Let's get it for them, and smoothly and sensibly, as quickly as possible, if in a sensible way. Let's do that. And let's change their lives. If very often when you meet with clients, they're in utter despair. They haven't come in for a takeaway. And it's a privilege to be able to have these people trust you, and you turn it around, either make them win or make them less of a loser, depending on what the situation is. So that's number one, get a good result. But changing clients' lives has another nuance to it when you're a lawyer. If you go into a law firm and let's say you're in a terrible situation, whether it's a divorce, whether it's an adoption situation, a redundancy, an insolvency situation, whatever it is you're facing, a massive customer who's not paying you, whatever it is, we have the skill, the power to get them a better than expected result. Okay. So
Mhm.
we can change their lives, but you can also make their life worse in that moment, Dan. You try not calling them back. You
Mm.
try sending them a 10-page letter they don't understand. You try cancelling meetings. You try passing the file within your firm from lawyer to lawyer. You try passing it to a junior lawyer that's never done one of these before. What you've done there, not only not getting them a better than possible result, you're now making it worse, because that person is literally, I've been there. I've been the client of plenty law firms. You are sat staring at the phone. You're sat staring at the inbox. You're sat when the postman arrives. You are at the letter. You are desperate. So it's you. That's how you change clients' lives. Firstly, you have good people who deliver a great service, who don't make the situation worse. I tell you, I have been the client of lawyers that do not return calls. Well, sorry, why am I even ringing them? Why aren't they ringing me?
Mhm.
They are charging a lot of money. And what becomes these aren't normal people in a normal situation. They're pretty desperate. It's the biggest thing in their life. Let's make it better. Let's make it easy. Let's make it smooth. And in this book, what I talk about is the absolute key formula. How do you change your client's life? What's happened we didn't cause. We can maybe reduce the pain, but it's the way we do it that changes the client's life. And all you've got to do is two things. And I call it in here, I use the child, you remember, if you've got anyone who's listening who's got kids will know well the thing their children do at school, which is called show and tell, where you take stuff in and, you talk about it, which I always used to love when my kids did that, by the way. Well, I've got my own version of it. It's called push and tell. Push the case, tell the client. Okay, push the case. Make it happen. It might be an adversarial situation where the client is literally losing bargaining power because they're not on the front foot. They're being run ragged. Well, no, let's us be the pushers. Push the case. You can't do it if the lawyer's got 300 cases. If the lawyer's got 300 cases, but a team of junior lawyers under that are helping keep all the plates spinning, that works. But all too often, lawyers just cannot. I see them. I see the look in their eyes. They hate the fact they cannot push all their cases. So if we're talking about growing profitably and sustainably by changing clients' lives, you've got to be able to push and tell every time. Because if you aren't, Dan, what's happening? The file's sat there. We don't make any money out of storage.
Mm-hmm.
And all the while frankly, it's disgraceful. And all the while we've got a client there whose life could be changed, who is absolutely desperate to pay us money, but not if the file's in storage. So that's how we change clients' lives. We keep sunlight and daylight and lamplight on their case all the time by having the right behaviors, the right team structures. And that isn't a lawyer thing. The lawyer can't say, listen, I tell you what, I'm going to have 3 junior lawyers under me. That's a management thing. That's an ownership thing. That's a cultural thing. This is how we operate. So it's quite a big thing. And what you often get is, chief executives and managing partners, ladies and gentlemen, sending out emails to all the staff going, get your level of service up. You can't. If you are crushed, you can't.
Interesting, a really interesting kind of point there. And there's a few things I actually want to pick up on, but I guess that the first question that you made me think of there is, with that notion of, okay, you've got to push, you've got to keep on top of your cases, but then you've got a resource or an amount of resource in terms of your volume of lawyers, junior lawyers.
Yeah.
And then what you're effectively saying is they need to be pushing. We need to have that resource to be able to change the clients' lives. But then you also mentioned about growing profitably and sustainably. So there's obviously a consideration there for the managing partner to think about that as well. I can't just add 10 extra lawyers to manage that caseload. I've got to think about that commercially. So what's the balance there for you? How do you advise a managing partner to approach that and approach how they resource their team to manage a caseload?
I love your question, Dan. What I've been talking about so far is one side of the coin. If I lined 100 or 1,000 clients up out there and I said, go on, give me your wish list of your lawyers. I'll tell you what their wish list will be. It will sound like a really good lawyer. They need to know the technical law. I don't want to be tripped up by the other side. I need someone who can put that in my language. I want someone who's going to push my case, going to tell me all the time where the case is up to and what's coming next. And I want them to fight for me. And actually, I want them to be really nice. And I want them to talk to me every day. And I want it for free. Okay, that's where the wheels come off. Because until the first 8 points, that's called changing clients' lives. But this is two sides to this coin. Those first 8 points, if you do all those things, push and tell and fight and all that kind of stuff, that's a Bentley. I call that a Bentley service. Mm-hmm. Lots of law firms, I'm telling you, I've been there. Lots of law firms only deliver what you might call a Ford price or an old, I don't want to be demeaning to any particular brand, but a lesser service, Ford service. And actually that's okay to charge a Ford price for. Bentley service. Now that's a different ballgame. Bentley's a dear. Not everyone can afford them. I am an advocate of Bentley service for a Bentley price. And that's them. So in my law firm, I said to you earlier, I openly talk and write about what I did right and what I did wrong. What I did right, we gave Bentley service. Our whole brand, ethos, strategy could be summed up, and everyone did sum it up in the firm by this: a great service, every lawyer, every time, guaranteed. Bentley service. I didn't know then what I know now, Dan. So I didn't charge a Bentley price. I gave a Bentley service for a Ford price. So coming back to your question and the whole theme of this, how do you grow profitably and sustainably by changing clients' lives? The answer is twofold. You deliver the Bentley service, but you charge a Bentley price. And that now means that if the team leader now goes to the management and said, look, I need 3 junior lawyers. I do things graphically. I need 3 vessels because I've got enough work to fill 3 vessels. Then the managing partner, with the right kind of business mind amongst his people, will say, right, well, we'll get those. Right, you've got the work, have you? Fine. Well, you can have 3 vessels. Let's make sure they're good vessels, and because we can fill them quite quickly, and they're going to turn that work, that Bentley service, into Bentley money. And that's the missing bit that we have in the legal profession. And it used to be okay, but it's not okay anymore. I use the phrase now when I speak and write, the elastic has snapped. It used to be okay because there was a bit left over. There was always a bit left over, bit of the money, the Ford money. Now the salaries are so high, overheads, insurance, rent, IT costs, regulation costs, everything is now so high that having a bit of money left over is not enough. And the words often used to me by chief execs and managing partners, the walls are closing in. And that's this year. Next year, everything's going to be dearer. You try telling your good vessels, your good lawyer, you try telling them, listen, no more pay rises for 5 years, guys. Sorry. What's going to happen? You haven't got the vessels anymore. So we now go back to storage and losing money. So it's a two-sided coin. Bentley service, Bentley price.
And how do you kind of see that kind of playing out in the legal sector at the moment? Obviously, we're looking at a very, very competitive sector generally, and you're looking at, I guess, particularly on the kind of personal side of law, where people buying houses, wills, that kind of stuff. People still kind of in a cost of living crisis almost. People don't want to pay those premium prices as such, and everybody. I think if you think to buying a house, one thing people always complain about is the cost of the lawyers within that. How do you advise the law firm to go and show that Bentley service that justifies the Bentley price when they're pitching for their work?
Yeah, well, the first thing is if you haven't got anything to say about your firm, you're left with one option really. Use us, we're the cheapest. If you haven't got anything good to say about yourself, so what could you say that makes Mr. X or Mrs. Y or whatever in their business or their personal lives, what's going to make them use you? The cheapest. Well, actually, there's some people who run a mile from that. It's not necessarily a winner, but it would keep you in the game, I suppose. Yeah, we're really cheap. We try and be really cheap. Okay, you're still in the game. If you then say, yeah, we aren't actually cheap, actually we're Bentley price, I for one would just go, okay, I'm still listening. What do I get for that? Because I tell you, have you seen how many Audis are being sold and Mercedes and Bentleys? There's plenty of people buy these things. Even now, there's plenty of people. Now, if you want everyone to buy your car, everyone, you're going to have to go cheap because not everyone has got Mercedes money and Bentley money and so on. If you want everyone to buy your car, you've got to go cheap. That is a bit of a nightmare for law firms. That will mean you will be deluged. You will be opening hundreds of files a day. You will not be able to keep on top of them all. Risk, compliance, your insurance premiums will go up. You'll need more and more lawyers. More and more lawyers believe me, is more and more HR stuff. Big is not better here. Big is not better. It is not. It's for me. I've done this. I made these mistakes. It doesn't work. It's a stressful. The walls close in, the ceiling comes down, the floor moves up. It is really big. Big is horrendous. So I prefer my new message. If I was doing it again, and I now do this with law firms, is don't stop. Law firms that are under pressure now, their immediate reaction is, right, we need more marketing. Whoa, that's the very thing you don't need.
Mhm.
That is literally the very thing you don't need to go back. What have we got to say about ourselves? That is good. Bentley service. And Dan, you or any other non-lawyer looking at websites of law firms, you think they all offer Bentley service because it says it basically. We love our clients. We put you with a sense of everything. Everything we do is built around you. Whoa, believe me, that is the politest phrase I can use is hot air. When you use law firms around the country, which I do, I tell you, and plenty of the people, I make it my business to watch my friends, my colleagues, everyone. How's it going? That it's just universally a nightmare. So if you can say to the company director or the lady or gentleman buying a house, if you can say, well, listen, you've used solicitors before, have you? Yeah, yeah. How was it? Oh my goodness. Yeah. Why are you ringing me? Why aren't you using the same solicitor as you used last time? Oh God, don't go there. The answer is it's not always a great push and tell experience. Well, with us, it is. It's guaranteed push, tell. You won't be chasing us, we'll be chasing you. But you've got to pay for it. And it doesn't suit everyone. We're fine with that. And the law firms that are doing really well right now are the ones that are saying, look, we try really hard. Everything we do is based around push and tell. We worked with a guy called Simon McCrum, and he sorted us out. And blah, we've got vessels, and you will never chase. You'll never chase us. The firms that are doing well are the ones that have now saying that. It's called a differentiator, and it's concrete, not hot air. We've got a service pledge, and have a look at it on our website. Not only are we all doing it, but we will be asking you as the case progresses whether we are doing it. And so the firms that are doing well are doing that, and they are not ashamed of their pricing pride either. They're not ashamed. They're saying, so we are therefore Mercedes or Bentley, and we charge a Bentley price. And if you don't like it, no, we won't do it any cheaper.
That makes complete sense. Coming back to that as well. So when you first mentioned kind of push and tell, the sort of tell element of that almost kind of all features around communication, doesn't it? And I think
Yes.
again, you come back to some of the sort of the more personal stories you hear about people's perceptions of law firms. That's often, again, going back to house purchases, probably the one that most people deal with in their lives. Everyone's always complaining about, oh, we didn't hear from the lawyers enough,
Yeah.
or they take too long to get back to us. They didn't return our calls. Like, how do you kind of approach that in a law firm and with the partners to make sure they are prioritizing that communication? Because I imagine that's you know maybe when you go to law school, the client communication isn't, I don't imagine, is
It's
a
not.
module at law school, is it? It's more
It's
about the
not.
law, and you're they're probably not coming into law as a lawyer thinking, oh, I'm going to be on the phone talking to clients all the time. That's maybe quite alien to some of those people. So how do you make sure that the firms that you work with prioritize and value that side of
Okay.
things?
It's a fundamental. You're right, by the way. Communication with client is not a module. The two missing modules are almost the three missing modules at law school: personal behaviors and self-awareness, communication with clients. Oh, and the minor one of business.
Yeah.
Non-existent. Okay. So how do you assure this? Well, firstly, the way I do it with law firms is and there's plenty of them out there that are doing this right as we speak. We all get down and dirty, and I get down with the people, and we design a service pledge, a realizable, honest, sensible service pledge that everyone believes in. Well, now that we've all designed it, we all own it. You try lots of I've seen law firms copy my service pledge because you can, it's out there. I've seen them copy it and just paste it on the website. The staff don't even know it's there. How ludicrous is that? This has got to be in everyone's DNA. That's the first thing. The second thing is you need to reward it. All too often, a lawyer or a senior lawyer, a partner, is rewarded for being an absolute nightmare for clients if the billing's good. Okay, no one can be promoted who's horrible to clients, who's leaving clients in this black hole. Okay. And people who do deliver on it need to be celebrated and made champions and rewarded. The third thing is where someone is a recalcitrant, a maverick who refuses to do it, you need to address it. Letting it go because they've been here a long time shows that actually it's not our brand. And I've just used the word there, brand. Brand. People think, oh, what, the logo? No, a brand is a promise. Mercedes, their promise is luxury, reliability. In this situation, the brand, our brand was a great service, every lawyer, you can't have a brand if it's okay if some people don't do it. You know, you don't go into Waitrose or Booths and go, yeah, really good supermarket, but don't buy meat off them, for heaven's sake. Every aisle has to be of the same quality. Then it's a brand. And the aisles in a law firm are the teams and the lawyers and the partners. Everyone. So how do you do it? You get universal buy-in and engagement. You reward the right behaviors, and you draw a line when someone isn't doing it, so that everyone sees. No, okay, crikey, Billy, you can't behave like you want round here. They mean it.
Oh, definitely. That's really interesting. Again, that it's, I think addressing the not sort of non-compliance of some of that stuff is a really interesting point because, like you say, it's very easy to lay out. Okay, this is what we're going to do. This is how we're gonna operate as a business. But especially if you're an established business and you've got people that work in certain ways, like you said, that might have been there for 10 years
Yeah,
plus, you know, they're not necessarily going to
Dan.
change straight away, are they?
Yeah, Dan. Particularly if they own the place. It's a big one, isn't it?
Yeah, very true. Yeah, yeah. Um, I think so many of the values of a business come from the top down, don't they? And
They
you
do.
need to see that those values embodied by the leadership of the business for you to be able to
Absolutely.
reflect. Um, and if that's not the case, how it's kind of like how can you expect people to behave in a certain way if you don't behave in that way as
Dan,
well?
so I've written two books, The Perfect Legal Business, The Perfect Lawyer. The one I'm writing at the moment that'll be out by Christmas is called The Perfect Partner. And it's all about you've just hit the nail on the head. It's all about leadership. Leadership. I'm quite public. The secret formula, it's all I've written it out. The difference is the leadership. That is the rocket fuel that will change everything. And funnily enough, people go, oh, what leader? Oh, what the partners? Oh no, leadership is partners. Sorry, they're bosses. That's different. Boss isn't leader. Leadership can come from anyone in the firm. It can come from little people, junior people. They can lead the way, lead by example. And the real challenge for law firms is for their partners who've done things this way all their life, and no one's going to tell me how to do it. Is for them to adopt leadership behaviors so that the boss becomes a leader. And as you so rightly said, a fundamental part of that is leading by example. It's so powerful. And that's the difference between a law firm that will copy and paste and send out emails or actually become the perfect legal business. It's down to leadership.
The point around communication as well. Obviously, we kind of said there's not a module in that in law school, and again, you've come up with these ideas about putting it in your service pledge and making that your DNA. But I guess there's still maybe I don't want to say like a skills gap necessarily as such, but lawyers might not have been taught how to communicate effectively.
Yeah,
So how do you approach that with businesses? Are you looking at kind of training courses and things like that,
yeah.
or is there something kind of more nuanced to the legal sector that you can do there?
So come back with me to the designing the service pledge. That isn't just a few words, someone types and emails it around and going, anyone want to add any? That is, I take people and we understand what it's like being the client of a law firm. And if that doesn't, and I've got, case studies, if that doesn't light your fire as a lawyer and make you want to communicate more with your clients, you need help. I'm telling you. We don't sell t-shirts. We are dealing with the biggest stuff in someone's life. And, actually, all you got to do is, how hard can it be? Communicate with them. And then they join your sales force because the last time they used lawyers, no one communicated with them. But that's one thing. But actually, You can do it automatically. We live in an age of emails, texts. Communication is not what it used to be as a challenge. Just copy the client into everything. Every time you do something on the client, send it to the every time you do something on the file, send it to the client. Just keep them posted. It's not a 1 hour thing.
Yeah, I guess it's in kind of making it part of your day to day, isn't it? I
Yeah, yeah,
suppose
yeah.
sense as
But
well.
here's the other thing. So don't forget, and what you've got to do is understand where lawyers are. I've been there, so I understand where they are, and where they are is sorry, that's going to take time that I've got to charge someone for. What we said to the client was, it's Bentley service, and therefore it's Bentley price. You have to pay for it.
Mhm.
You want that, you have to pay for it. If you don't want that, or sorry, if you don't want that, then you're not going to get that from us.
Mhm.
So it's the two things go together, but it is about making money. There's two sides to the coin. Bentley service, Bentley price.
Yeah, and I guess for people that maybe kind of have that perception of, well, that's going to cost more time and then that's going to eat into our profitability. I guess you kind of outline that very clearly that you're charging more for more, therefore people should be
Yeah,
happier and see more value in your service. It's not You're not providing Ford service at Bentley prices. You're providing the Bentley service
Bentley
first and
service.
foremost, and
Correct.
charging effectively for it. And I guess that's the thing that maybe in other sectors there's kind of less of a maybe people are less aware of the quality of the service, and they just see the price of how much the accountant charges, or uh, you know how
Yeah,
much the provider is, and they're not kind of digging into that nuance as much. Whereas I guess in the legal sector sometimes, like coming back to the whole topic here, some of these things that you're dealing with literally change your clients' lives, so they're maybe a lot
yeah,
more in tune
yeah, yeah.
with
No,
that.
no,
So
Dan, it's I think I'm disagreeing with you. I think the world is obsessed with quality differentials,
mhm.
and they're making decisions all the time. So you might shop at Aldi or you might shop at Waitrose. That's a decision. Do you see people in Waitrose taking things off the shelf going, have you seen how much this is? No one does. They've made a decision, haven't they?
Mhm. Yeah.
Mercedes, anyone who goes anywhere near a Mercedes showroom they already know they can get a cheaper car at Citroen next door, and that's the guy. But you know, so they'll make a decision that I'm going to pay more for a tin of beans or toothpaste, or frankly, it's shoes, handbags, watches. There's these decisions everywhere. When it comes to the biggest thing in their life, because frankly, a handbag's not going to change anyone's life, or a watch. When it comes to the biggest thing in their life, people go, "Oh, that's a bit dear."
Mm.
And actually, no, you get what you pay for. You get what you pay for. Bentley service, because don't forget, in this context, service is good lawyers, the best lawyers, delivering their expertise in a wrapper of service. There's two sides to service. Uh, and it's not like same as Mercedes, it's not for everybody. And the trouble we've got in a law firm is if you don't do that, and you therefore say, oh, actually, that goes against the grain. I want to open up to everyone. I want to do really cheap legal work. Well, then, boom, you have to do it in bulk. You have to do masses of it. And there are some incredible law firms that do so mass volume work because it's legal aid work. They're helping the people that are the most vulnerable in society. And the way they make that pay for them is to do vast quantities of it. Vast. And I take my hat off to them because they're working till 10, 11 o'clock at night. They're at the police station at 3 o'clock in the morning. That you have to do it in bulk if you're doing it at a low price. And I'm all about helping law firms do less, better, for more.
Less, better, and more is a really good take on that for law firms that are kind of looking to grow, really, isn't it? Do you kind of see that then? You mentioned before that kind of the big and the scale is hard work. Do you see this kind of being confined to to small firms or sort of solo practitioners in terms of like this kind of Bentley service, Bentley pricing, or do you think it can be done at a bigger scale as well?
Oh no, no, no. It's not a size thing at all. You can do it on a huge scale. And the best evidence I can give you of that is actually outside the legal world. And if you look at the big four accountants, they do it. So I was a big law firm. We needed auditors. When you try and instruct one of the big firm, I mean, these are global organizations, so we are talking size. When you try and instruct one of them to be your auditors, you would think they didn't want your business. You literally think it's almost like you have to go through the business prevention team to start with. Who are you? Let's look. We're going to crawl all over you before we put our name to you. We are going to charge you the earth. We're going to go through so many formalities. It's not true. And they do, and it's very reluctant. And then they say, right, the job is this. It's narrow. And as soon as you set foot outside it, boom, it's another load of money. And they've got it so right. Do less, better for more. That because of course what we're also doing in law firms, don't forget you're dealing with big stuff for every client.
Mhm.
It can go wrong. When it goes wrong, you get sued. So risk, every file you open is a risk. And while you think, oh, that might be, God, that must be a bit of a pain in the neck if you get sued, it's not a pain in the neck, Dan. It means that come October, you might not be able to switch the lights on because you haven't got cover. Law firms only really exist 1 year at a time. If you don't get insurance, you don't open for business on November the 1st. So you taking on hundreds of files because you're doing it cheap is really hard work and big risk. So it makes sense to do less files, and you make your money off less files by doing less, better for more. So the big firms the big accountancy firms are hugely managing their risk as well as their profitability, their service levels, and actually protecting their brand, their promise. They couldn't be as good as they are if they took on everything.
Yeah, that's a really good point as well, actually, because you think there's the those big accountancy firms are associated with high costs as well, and
Yeah,
high cost and high quality service, and they have kind of created that brand for themselves, I guess, by doing exactly kind of as you've said over the years in terms of managing their
yeah.
risk. I love that the notion of the business prevention team is a great way
That's how it
of
felt. I can
referring
tell you.
to it. I love that.
Our audit fee was 50,000 quid, and I just could not believe that it was difficult. That they pitched to us. We pitched to them. They all pitched to us. We selected one, but then you had to go through their brand protection process.
It's really interesting. I think, like, coming from the kind of perspective of working in marketing, I think some marketing agencies do that really well as well, where they kind of, in those early discussions, they might say to you, well, our minimum retainer is 20K a month. And they're
Yeah,
kind of immediately kind of disqualifying people that are not going to be right for their
exactly.
model. So,
We're
um,
Bentley. We're Bentley. They can't deliver a Bentley service if they're bringing on Ford clients,
mhm.
or lots and lots of them. It just doesn't work.
No, definitely. We've talked about some really interesting kind of like, I guess, like the big concepts behind things and the big sort of strategic side of some of this stuff. What would you kind of, if you were to give some advice now to a law firm that's saying, okay, I want to be more, I want to be more client centric. I want to be changing my clients' lives tomorrow. What are some of the kind of practical things that you think they could be doing? Sort
Yeah,
of, and it's not a quick and easy process at all, but what could they kind of quickly implement
it
to get
is.
them on that journey? You think you'd say it was?
It is a really simple. So the first thing is I wouldn't just say that. I'd give them two bits of advice. One, change your clients' lives, and I'll come back to that. The other is charge them for it. Okay, so how would you change the clients' lives? Well, here, Dan, how's this for a start? Return calls.
Yeah,
It's
not
not
a
rocket
difficult
science,
thing
is
at
it?
all, is it? Not a difficult thing for people to
Okay,
do.
or why not drop them a line every Friday afternoon?
Hmm.
Why not copy them in on everything you send on their case? Takes
Yep.
It's nothing. It's the technology means it's nothing.
Yeah, the interesting thing actually as well, not to sell Moneypenny in this instance, but it's why our legal clients use us as well to answer the calls. So it's not always doesn't
Totally,
have to be
totally.
return the call.
Dan, I've sat in your call center. I love
Hmm.
Moneypenny. I love what you do. So here we go. I've been a client of multiple law firms over the years. Um, you try getting hold of your lawyer.
Yeah.
I'm telling you. And I tell you another thing I do when I'm at law firms, I don't hold back. I've got enough friends in life. I do a proper job. And when I sit on reception, I talk to the receptionist. I meet them in the coffee room. You're on reception. Tell me how's it going? Oh, really good. No, 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 seriously, tell me how it's going. And then, well, really? Go on. They say it's terrible. It's terrible. And I've had a receptionist burst into tears in front of me because no one is returning calls. And the client is on the phone again and again and again. I actually sat on reception once and a client walked in. Here we go. Listen to this. A client walked in. I just happened to be talking to the receptionist, but sat with her. In walks a client, a smart dressed gentleman, and he was wearing a sports jacket and he had a polo neck jumper. He looked very smart and he had an envelope in his hand, a brown envelope. And he said, Hi, I'm not a client of yours. I wonder if I could see a lawyer. And the lady said, "Excuse me, Simon. Yeah, what kind of lawyer? Well, employment lawyer. I've just had. I've, I've just been sacked." And he was looking very smart, believe me. And he had this envelope, and I just need some advice. And she said, "Yes, thank you very much." And she said, "Bear with me. Our employment lawyer. We've got one here." And she dials the number. Yeah, hello. Hi, David. I've got an employment lawyer here. Sorry, I've got an employment client here. Wonders if I can see a lawyer. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Okay. Uh, okay. Yeah, I will do. Thank you. Bye bye. Can I make an appointment for you, sir, next Thursday?
You've lost
Is it me, Dan?
you've lost that business already, haven't you? At that point, it's gone.
Right. So let's say if my reading of that guy was right. He looked well placed in life, to put it mildly.
Hmm.
There's a few hundred. Well, I mean, God knows what the employment case was about. That might be worth a lot. The guy's going to have some money. You could move house. There might be litigation. He needs wills. He needs powers of it. I mean, that's not an employment case. That's a
Hmm.
client. It's the whole. Don't think of him as 001, one case. 007, a license to bill. Oh, I tell you what, that lady was in tears. She welled up. I wanted to go through and grab the guy and throw him out the window because I knew he was in.
Yeah.
Communication.
Yeah, it's really you can just imagine as well, it's kind of like if you're reception in a law firm as well, you're trying to embody that brand and that business, and you want to provide that great service because you're the front line of it. And if you can't do that, then it must be so frustrating for somebody to
Yeah,
do that
yeah.
job as well.
They feel as yeah. These people that you might not think are vital they're absolutely vital. I tell you what, they are vital to the team spirit that
Hmm.
delivers on the differentiator. And it's the exact point. You cannot, if the receptionist doesn't give a damn, you haven't got a hope in hell of
No.
delivering a service pledge. But they do give a damn. They give an absolute damn. And sometimes, going back to your question, how do you deliver? The lawyer has got to have a mindset, which is, I'm going to give that person 5 minutes to tell them I can't see them now, but to let them know I want to see them.
Hmm.
So, how do you make client? Do you think that experience made that client's life feel better or worse?
Invariably worse, really, at that in that situation, isn't it? Someone's come to you at a time of real need.
Totally.
Like as you say, you don't have to come and spend an hour with them in a meeting to show them that you value them and that you care, but you have to speak to them. You have I think that's a non-negotiable. You have to speak to that
It's
person.
decent. We're decent. It's all about decency.
Yeah, and you just think that like you say, there's that person's not one case, they could be 10 cases, but then they also may know 10 other people. They may have been let go from a big business and been a senior person in business, so there's a whole kind of business kind of potential there as
That
well, isn't
guy
there? So
Dan, that guy could have joined your sales team there and then, even if you
yeah.
hadn't dealt with him fully. yet. He could
Mm.
have joined your sales team. But the real skill is not just the lawyer getting up off his desk, putting his coffee down or his soup and going and seeing the client to manage him and bring him in and keep him ready. The real skill is bringing him in, going, right, this is what I do. Once I know more from you, or let me put it another way, because it's better language, I won't be able to give you any idea on price yet. I need to listen to you, and then we'll tailor it. But we have a Bentley service, it comes at a Bentley price. But I just want you to know that I want to look after you.
Yeah, and just that notion of want to look after people,
Yeah.
that's probably going to win you the business so many times, isn't it? In terms of
Yeah, I have been the client. So I could ring any number of law firms that would say, all right, this is Simon McCrum, make sure you look after him. I'd never do that. I just ring a law firm that says they're going to put me at the center of everything on their website, and then I just literally watch the wheels come off. And you cannot believe when you've got something big going on in your life, and it's Monday, and you think, okay, well, we'll wait and see. Tuesday, this is getting a bit tense. What's happening? Wednesday, you ring them. Sorry, they're not available. You leave a message, and then Thursday, they haven't rung you back, and it's Friday, and you think, no, not in my wildest nightmares are they going to let me go into the weekend not knowing. Surely they do.
you do, yeah. I think that's the thing for the lawyers in the instance to kind of always remember. It might just be a case to you, but it might be the biggest, most momentous thing
Exactly.
in that client's life, the house purchase,
Yeah.
the business sale, the will, whatever it is. That could be the biggest thing that
Yeah.
somebody ever deals with in their life. So it might
It
just be
is.
a case, but it's much
It
more.
is correct. So I talk as I said earlier, and as you can gather, I spend my life with lawyers, and I say, "What's your service like?" "Oh, really good, really good." Is it? What happens when you're off? What happens when you're in
Mhm.
court? What happens when you're ill? Now you can't tell me, can you? Whereas we had a system, great lawyer, every service, every time, guaranteed. It was a team effort. It was an all firm effort. I would return calls if that's what was needed. Everyone was returning calls. Secretaries were doing work for other teams. It was all designed. And then we did an incredible thing because we meant this. And what we did was we asked clients we asked them, do you want us, we're serious about this? So what we're going to do is we're going to ask you how we're doing as the case progresses, not at the end, not once a year with some questionnaire. What we're going to do is you choose, is it weekly, bi-weekly or monthly? What do you want? We're going to text you, and all we want is, and the question is, are we A, B, or C? That's it. And you just reply A, B, or C. We got that information back, that data came in. It was on the front page of our website. Yeah, we had some bad days. Every time there was a C, I rang the client.
Mhm.
The chief exec, the managing partner, rang the client. It was incredible what happened. Oh my God, something's happened. I just said C, I didn't think anything would happen. And I certainly didn't think the boss would be ringing me.
Mm.
And that's how you do it. And you stop complaints, you stop claims. And this just showed we lived this. We published the A's, the B's, the C's internally. We lived it. And all too often, now that's called concrete. You need to move away from the hot air that we see because it's not working. The mistake I made, Dan, I didn't charge for it.
Yeah, yeah. It's really interesting because that it comes back to what we spoke about earlier as well, where we say that the leadership, the CEO, the managing partner of the business needs to live and breathe those values and show that as well. And in that instance, you said, if you're the leader and you're calling the clients,
Yep,
there's no better kind of picture to the rest of your team and staff
correct.
that's the standard. That's what's required here. And it's really interesting you said that because my next question I was going to ask you actually was how you measure the client satisfaction as well, because that's what we're talking about
Yeah.
changing lives, we're talking about providing a great service. We can try and do that, but how do we measure that to know if we're doing it well?
So firms do. There's a number of sort of the norm is you will send a questionnaire out at the end of the case. How were we? Sometimes there's an annual client survey. How are we generally? That kind of thing. Um, of course, there's a whole new world that has got a great impact on law firms now called reviews,
Mm.
Trustpilot, all that kind of thing. That means a lot. Online reviews. Um, that's really valid data, and clients do look at it, and law firms rightly put it on their website. I get all of that. The opportunities to do something different. So there's one law firm, client satisfaction. A lot of client satisfaction can be embodied in results. What results did you get? And I've seen a law firm that publishes its results, wins, losses, draws type of thing. That's brave. Actually shows honesty, doesn't it? And frankly, you can't win them all. No one expects you to be able to win them all, but it certainly shows a devotion to the client's way of thinking, doesn't it? So that's good. Ours was I haven't seen another law firm do ours, which was publishing on the front page of your website what your ABC count is. But it's an opportunity to think outside the box. And there's some really smart software now. One of the firms I've been working with is using this software. The way it makes our texts look like something from dinosaur era, but it was done with the right spirit. We wanted concrete.
Excellent. Yeah, I guess technology is a kind of a great player in that space, isn't it? In
It
terms of
is.
understanding value, and I imagine that will only grow. The whole sort of legal tech kind of offshoot is its whole
Yeah.
whole own kind of thing now, isn't it? So I'm sure that will help with those things in the future. Um, we spoke about some really big points, some amazing things today. I think there's so many kind of actionable things that law firms could go away and think about and start to implement kind of day to
They
day
won't,
to
Dan.
improve.
They won't do it. Do you know why?
Go
They're too
on.
busy marketing.
Yeah.
Marketing without any differentiators to boast of. And all the while, the files are building up on desks, full of money, full of unhappy clients. But let's go and get more clients.
And I think that's a good final message for people. Stop marketing and start.
Start looking after your clients and charging them for it. Have
Excellent.
systems in place. I mean, a lot of this stuff is it's like the picture of the swan. The client just wants to see the swan moving on. What's going underneath the water can be mental, and it used to be with us. So you can make it look serene. You can use money penny if you aren't answering calls. And law firms have got data showing how many calls dropped. For heaven's sake, you're dealing with the biggest thing in someone's life, and the phone's ringing out. They've got to make it look the part, and that's where you and your team come in. And as I say, I've sat there and I've watched it, and it was seamless, and it was amazing. It looked like, sorry, I imagined that it sounded to the client like it was the law firm dealing with the calls. And what you're doing is the very thing that receptionist wanted the lawyer to do when the employment client walked in, which is hold the ball for a minute,
Mhm.
make it look like we care. And it's just incredible that as a profession, we still aren't doing that. We can write a 15-page letter.
No, definitely. And we weren't looking for a plug of Moneypenny there, but I think our team will love that. And the fact that you
I mean
said it
it,
felt like that they were kind of in the firm, part of that business.
literally.
That is exactly what our legal receptionists here intend to do in their day to
Okay.
day. So yeah, that's a great advocate for them. I'm sure they'll love that. We'll let them know you said that. Um, but yeah, I think that, like I said before, that there's been some really great topics here. Lots of stuff for lawyers and firms to go away and digest. I'm sure that many people would love to pick your brains more on some of this stuff. So um, I think just to kind of wrap up by saying thank you so much, Simon, for taking the time with us today. Hopefully, people get a lot of value from that, and I guess they can find you on social media channels and reach out to you on your
Yeah,
website
yeah,
to find out more.
yeah. I've got a website, McCrum.legal.
Excellent.
It's
And
all
also
there, and
check
it's all
out check
honest
out
and
your book you mentioned as well, the perfect partner.
perfect partner. Oh my goodness, Dan! I'm telling you, it's great. I'm loving writing this. It's an immense topic, and do you know who needs to read it in a law firm? Everyone. Partners, aspiring partners, business support, everyone. It
Mhm.
is just what because I've interviewed thousands of people around the country for it, and putting it all together has been great fun.
Amazing.
Well, it's been a pleasure talking to you, Dan.
Look forward to reading that. Yeah, thanks very much, Simon. It's great to have spoken to you today.
Okay, goodbye.
Thanks for listening to today's episode of the On the Up podcast, brought to you from Moneypenny. Stay tuned for our next episode coming soon.